Shalom everybody, this is Rabbi Rosner speaking, and it was suggested to me that since I almost never get to give shiur about the 3 weeks, and some of our alumni, hopefully a lot of our alumni would be interested in that I should make a video about the halachot, general halachot of the 3 weeks. So here we go. Now this shiur is only going to be on the halachot of the 3 weeks, and not about the halachot of the 9 days, or about Tisha B'Av. Those, maybe I'll make another one, I don't know, maybe. But for now, only about the 3 weeks. I only have a 10-minute limit anyway. So first of all, the first halacha of the 3 weeks that we're all well aware of is that we are not allowed to have weddings during the 3 weeks. Where does this come from? So it says in the Gemara in Ta'anit, Mishenichnas Av mima'atin b'simcha. When Av begins, the month of Av begins, we reduce our simcha. And of course, the classic form of simcha would be simchat mereut, a party with friends, and obviously the biggest party that one would have would be a wedding. And therefore, during the month of Av, weddings are forbidden. Now, that's the month of Av. How about the 3 weeks? The 3 weeks begin on Shivasar B'Tammuz, and they last for, well, just about 3 weeks. Much more than the month of Av, which is only from Rosh Chodesh Av until Tisha B'Av is only 9 days. So the Ramah writes that for Ashkenazim, Nohagim lahachmir miyudzayin b'Tammuz. Excuse me. We are noheg. We have the custom to be machmir from Shivasar b'Tammuz all the way until Tisha B'Av, not to have any parties, simchat mareut, during that time period. Are you allowed to get engaged during that time period? Yes, please do. You are allowed to get engaged then. You are not allowed to have an engagement party then. But to get engaged, you are certainly permitted during the 3 weeks. How about for Sfaradim? We just said that that minhag during the 3 weeks was a minhag of the Ramah. Does that apply to Sfaradim? Are Sfaradim allowed to get married during the 3 weeks before Rosh Chodesh Av, from Shivasar B'Tammuz until the end of the month of Tammuz? So the answer is Rav Azriel Rosner has a tshuva on this, and he writes that halachically one is permitted to do so. Just because the Ashkenazim had this minhag, the minhag of the Kihila Ashkenazit that they took on, doesn't mean that it's binding on Sfaradim. So Rav Azriel Rosner writes clearly that for Sfaradim, if they want to get married on the 20th of Tammuz, that's perfectly permitted. However, most contemporary, most current Sephardic communities shy away from that. Not for halachic reasons as much as it's sort of viewed as bad mazel, the 3 weeks, so they pretty much avoid it. The only question remaining is, are you permitted theoretically to get married, to have a party on the night of Shivasar B'Tammuz? Now we know Shivasar B'Tammuz, the fast begins in the morning. Do the restrictions of the 3 weeks, do they start on Shivasar B'Tammuz at night? So here, the Chidah is the most prominent Achron who discusses it, and the Chidah writes that even though Shivasar B'Tammuz is only a half-day fast, still the whole day is a day of Puranut, a day of negative things, and therefore should be avoided having parties and certainly weddings on the night of Shivasar B'Tammuz. However, there are poskim, there are Achronim who are lenient and who do permit, who do say that the minhagim of the 3 weeks only begin in the morning of Shivasar B'Tammuz. We'll see where this is relevant later on, Be'ezrat Hashem. Second restriction on the 3 weeks is music. Are you allowed to listen to music during the 3 weeks? Now certainly, as we've just said, certainly a party with music is not permitted. A party is not allowed. Now we have to do a little bit of background on this before we discuss music, and we'll note it's an interesting thing that music in general is, according to the Gemara, according to the Rambam, and according to the Shulchan Aruch, that according to them, music is actually never allowed, or almost never allowed. It was a gzeira after the Churban Beit HaMikdash, if the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, a general sort of avelut, that there should never be music in public because of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Now, for the most part, obviously, we are much, much, much more lenient nowadays. We, for the most part, do allow music for all sorts of different circumstances. We are not so machmir on this. But let's talk about music during the 3 weeks. This leads us to 2 possible reasons why music during the 3 weeks might be forbidden. Two reasons why music might be forbidden. Number one, according to, as I just noted, the Gemara, the Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, all forbid music always, pretty much. So therefore, the prohibition of listening to music during the 3 weeks might be a leftover, a residual prohibition that's, we're not machmir on it all year, but maybe we are machmir on it. We kept it up, this prohibition of listening to music in general, during the 3 weeks where we know we are focusing on the Avelut for the Beit HaMikdash. So that's one possible reason. The second possible reason is that music in general might be very, very much associated with parties. Music is such an important component of parties. Who has a party without music? So therefore, perhaps the prohibition of music is sort of an extension of the prohibition on parties. So two possibilities. Again, just a general prohibition on music, or a continuation, an extension of the prohibition on parties. And therefore, for the most part, we forbid music during the 3 weeks, although we'll have a few exceptions now. First of all, the Minchas Yitzchak, Dayan Weiss, and pretty much everyone agrees with him, allows listening to music or playing music for parnasa purposes, for purposes of making a living. For example, those who are doing recording, those who are giving piano lessons, those who are taking piano lessons for future parnasa purposes, for training, they would be permitted to do that during the 3 weeks. Number two, Rav Lichtenstein allows listening to music if it has a purely functional purpose. You need the music to do something else. So, for example, Rav Lichtenstein says, the Rosh Hashiva of Har Etzion, that one is permitted to listen to music if you're riding in the car and you need it to keep you focused and keep you paying attention. Rav Avad Yosef, similarly, allows music in a summer camp if it is necessary to keep the little tykes under control. The music keeps them calm, the music keeps them cheerful and disciplined. He allows it as that well. Now, what about recorded instrumental music? Is that permitted? So pretty much everybody agrees, not all, but most poskim agree that the recording is an instrument too. So if instrumental music is forbidden, then recorded instrumental, well, the CD player, the DVD player, the MP3, whatever you're listening to, the iPod, that's an instrument. It's a piece of equipment that is playing music. So recorded instrumental music would also be problematic. And of course, the big question is, what about a cappella music? Music with voices where there's no instruments. Is that permitted during the 3 weeks? So here, Rav Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva where he's discussing this, again, general prohibition that, again, in the Gemara and the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, against listening to music always. And he writes that general prohibition applied to instrumental music always, but vocal music only in a beit mishteh, in a party. Therefore, following along the lines of that, if we see the 3 weeks prohibition of music as a continuation of that, then instrumental music would be forbidden everywhere, and vocal music would only be forbidden at a party. And therefore, there's reason, following the lines of Moshe Feinstein, his line of reasoning, to permit a cappella music when you're not at a party. If you're having a party with a cappella music, that would certainly be a problem. But plain listening to a cappella music would be okay. However, there are some poskim, such as Rav Shmuel Belsky, who's one of the poskim of the OU, who said that even engineered, put together a cappella music on a tape, he holds that's to say he's more focusing on the idea of music as bringing simcha. And he says it's engineered, it's simcha, it's fancy. He writes that still makes one happy and it's still forbidden. What should you do about music during the 3 weeks, about a cappella music during the 3 weeks? Should I permit it? Should I not? That's ask your posek. I'm certainly not going to decide for you. Don't have enough time on this video to finish off, but if you're interested in more about the 3 weeks or about the 9 days, let me know. And as it says in the Gemara, Kol hamitablim al Yerushalayim, anyone who properly mourns for Yerushalayim, zoche v'ro'eh b'simchata, may we all merit, as the Gemara says, to see the joy of Yerushalayim b'mheira v'yamedu.